Ladies and gentlemen, Garry Moore.
Hi, Bill. Hi, friends. Thank you very much. Nice to be with you again. In a moment, you're going to hear one of the most, I suppose shocking is the word, but at the same time, one of the most heartwarming stories that we've ever had on our program. Our first guest is a young lady who was once deeply involved in drugs and in prostitution, and in a complete turnaround, she became associated with a vitally important television series, and as a result of that, she received the coveted Emmy Award for her outstanding work. And we'll meet her after we say hello to our panel right now.
Nipsey Russell. Carlisle. Bill Cullen. And Peggy Cass.
There's always a thrill in looking at an Emmy. I don't know why people like to look at Emmys and look at Oscars, and this is the coveted Emmy Award.
Is that the one it looks like? I heard about that.
That's the Emmy, and we have a young lady with us who has won one.
Oh.
And right now, let's meet this young lady with the most extraordinary story.
Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Barbara Quinn.
Number two.
My name is Barbara Quinn.
Number three.
My name is Barbara Quinn.
And as usual, two of them are kidding you. One of them really is Barbara Quinn. Now let's hear her story. Barbara says, I, Barbara Quinn, am a former prostitute and heroin addict. As living proof that you can shake the drug scene and get out of prostitution, I recently received a most coveted award from the New York television industry. Here's the story of my extraordinary turnabout. Early in life, I got hooked on heroin. To support my habit, I worked as a call girl for 5 nightmarish years. Once, unwittingly, I propositioned a vice squad detective and spent 3 months in a house of detention. The road to recovery began at a rehabilitation center, where I spent 2.5 long years. After getting out, I was given the chance to work on a TV series about narcotics addiction. As the moderator of the series, it was my magnificent good fortune to receive the New York Television Academy's celebrated Emmy Award. Signed, Barbara Quinn. And while we pause briefly to think about this story and all the suffering that's behind it and the eventual joy, let's have a word or two from our clients. Be right back. We have 3 young ladies across the way. They all say that they are Barbara Quinn, former drug addict and prostitute who went on to achieve a major television award. Bill Cullen, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay. Congratulations, whoever you are, on the Emmy, first off. Number 3, excuse my not knowing, but what was the name of the television show that you did that got you this award?
Drugline.
Was that a national show, number 3?
No, it was for Sterling Cable Television.
I see. Number 1, you mentioned that through some good fortune you got this job as a moderator of a TV series. How did the getting of the job come about?
Well, my friend directed it, and so, luckily, he asked me to do it.
And were you, number 1, were you given the job because, or did the fact that you had dope problems, narcotics problems, did that have anything to do with your getting the job?
Absolutely, that my history was such that I would understand.
Mm-hmm. In other words, then, number 2, as moderator of this program, you were yourself. You were someone who admittedly had the problem. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And how many programs made up the series, number 2?
Well, it ran for a year, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Number 3, I'm curious to know, the show is now finished, is that right?
Correct.
The special on the narcotics.
Right.
Have you been approached for any other jobs in the industry?
Several.
Do you have, number 3, do you have sort of a television or an acting background or anything like that? Or
None.
And that buzzer takes us, please, to Peggy Cass.
Thank you. Number 1, which house of detention were you, did you serve the 3 months in?
The all-famous one
Where
in the village.
Okay, number 2, what street is that on?
That's on 8th Street.
Thank you. Number 3, do you know who Gail Sheehy is?
No.
Okay. Number one, I don't want to be rude or anything, but did you work for yourself or did you work for a pimp?
I mainly work for myself because pimps are not interested in drug addicts. They use their money for the drugs.
But number one, I thought that was one way that they had the girls stay with them was by giving them drugs.
They can, but they knew that in my particular case, I was going to do it on my own and could.
Thank you. Number two, what's the difference between Synanon and Odyssey House?
I know about the program at Synanon, but I don't know exactly what they do at Odyssey House.
Okay, thank you. Number three, how long ago did you get out of the life?
In 1965, I went to Synanon.
And how long? And then you, once you came out, you went straight. You were clean, right?
Right.
Now, number one, have you married since then or anything like?
Oh, yes. I have. I'm remarried.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Thank you, Peggy. And now we're going to go down to Nipsey.
Number three, what's the going rate for ladies of the evening in New York now?
I don't know. I've been off the streets since 1965.
I see. Number one, will you give me a response to two terms, skin pop and mainline?
Well, mainline is the one I know best because that's what I was involved with.
All right. Number two, do you know such terms as OD and having the chucks?
Well, OD is overdose, and having the chucks is being sick to your stomach.
Mm-hmm. Number three, can you tell me the name of the center where you had your rehabilitation?
At Synanon.
And still number three, give me a difference between methadone and kicking cold turkey.
Well, methadone is a synthetic drug that is used to withdraw or for maintenance.
And kicking cold?
It's just cold with nothing.
I see. Number one again. Do you know what one would mean if they came to you and said, I'd like to get a hold of some horse?
They'd like to get heroin, right?
And last one is Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you. Number three, why is recidivism, if that's how you pronounce it, so prevalent in places like Lexington and so forth, and they have a better record at Odyssey and Phoenix and Synanon?
Well, Lexington is an institution. It's a federal-run institution where people are doing time. And the other programs is a volunteer. They just go in when they choose and leave when they choose.
Thank you. Number two, what are you doing now?
I'm working for the City Drug Addiction Agency.
Thank you. And number one, why did you get mixed up propositioning a vice squad detective? I thought call girl stayed home and got called.
Well, no, I was really on the street then, and I checked him out very thoroughly, I thought, but somehow he eluded me.
Thank you. Number three, how did you get hooked?
By shooting drugs every day.
But why?
Out of curiosity, and it's something that I thought was a big thing to do, and before I knew it, I was hooked.
Thank you. Number two, how old were you when it started?
I was 18.
Did your parents stand by you?
Well, my parents took care of my son, who's now 14, but I didn't see them. I wasn't living there.
Number one, did...
Okay, there goes the bell. And on the basis of the questions and the answers that we've got to decide. Do we think it's number one? Or do we think it's number two? Or do we think it's number three? The rules say that we pay $50 for each wrong guess. We pay $500 if all of the guesses are wrong. And Bill Cullen starts, please.
Yeah, very difficult. Number one looked like, I got the impression number one wanted us to vote for her. Because she shook her head affirmatively and negatively as questions were asked. Anyway, I didn't, the wrong time, I didn't go for that. I went to number three, just by the way she answered the questions and actually the words she used. I voted for number three.
All right, you got a number three. And Peggy?
Well, number one knew what mainlining was, but she never did explain what skin popping was, which is not hitting even, but doing it under the skin. And number two, there was, oh yeah, she knew what one thing was, but oh, the chucks, I'm not so sure what that is myself.
The chucks is the hunger that comes after throwing the habit off, that you compensate with overeating.
Oh. Ooh. Well, anyway, I voted for number three because she seemed to know everything.
All right, you got a pair of threes. And Nips, how you gonna go?
I voted for number three because she's pretty.
Can't think of a better reason. It's fairly unanimous. It is unanimous so far, unless Kitty changes the picture.
Well, it's a pity you're not prettier, because I'd have gone for you. You know so much. But I voted for number 3 because her definition of the difference between Odyssey and those places and Lexington was correct.
Now, we got a great deal of hubbub in our studio audience. They don't seem to agree with our panel that it's number 3, right? Number 2. Well, we're going to find out about it. The votes are in. Will the real Barbara Quinn please stand up? On the move. Number 1, what is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Gloria Valenza, and I work in a little store on 57th Street called Quatrefoil. I sell health food.
Ah, good luck. And number 2?
My name is Helen Conover, and I'm a freelance researcher.
Nice to have you here, Helen. Barbara, one of the other 2 girls, I've forgotten which one, said that she was now working for the city. Was this a true answer? Are you working in a narcotics?
Yes, it's for the Addiction Services Agency, which funds and sponsors and takes care of all the programs in New York City.
If somebody wants to come to you for help, Barbara, you having been there, how do they get hold of you?
Well, we have a 24-hour hotline, which is run 7 days a week, and this is to refer people into all the programs that we have. And the number is 226-6900.
That's in New York only?
Yes. Right.
Barbara, you've overcome a great deal. I hope your future is bright. Thank you very much,
you,
and thank you, ladies, for being here. Now let's say hello to the man who designs coats of arms for dogs.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Lucian Gilbert.
Number 2.
My name is Lucian Gilbert.
Number 3.
My name is Lucian Gilbert.
And here is the doggy document of Lucian Gilbert. He says, I, Lucian Gilbert, am the creator of coats of arms for dogs. In order to honor, enhance, and ennoble man's best friend, I have devised an individual coat of arms for each major breed of dog. Here are some examples of my hound dog heraldry. This is the coat of arms for the Beagle, who was a favorite pet at the court of Henry VIII. So the shield pictured is King Henry's own. The crown is that of Queen Elizabeth I, who tried to develop a toy beagle. On the coat of arms of the St. Bernard, the dog pictured is one who is reputed to have saved 47 people and who is stuffed and on display in Bern, Switzerland. The Chihuahua is the only breed of dog indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, and his coat of arms is framed by a Mayan temple representing the Chihuahua's mystical place in the life of ancient Mexico. I have studied 138 breeds of dogs. So far, I have designed coats of arms for 24 of them. And eventually, I intend to create coats of arms for every breed of dog recognized by the American Kennel Club. Signed, Lucian Gilbert. And I hope that I never do so much good in this world that when I die they stuff me and put me in the hall at NBC.
I don't think so.
Doesn't seem like a fitting thing for that dog. However, let's go to Peggy Cass.
Thank you. Number 3, I know the Chihuahua is indigenous to America, but isn't the Husky?
No, the Chihuahua is the only dog that's indigenous to the American continent, both North and South America.
Where do the Huskies come from? I thought they came from Alaska.
Well, that's where they are now. I believe they originally come from Russia.
Oh, how about that? Now, number 1, what are you going to do with all these coats of arms? I mean, I know people are always ordering their coats of arms, but a dog can't pick up the phone and say, listen, I'd like a little something for my stationery. So whom are you going to sell them to?
Well, we're selling him now to the people who own these beautiful dogs, and it is the history of the dog.
See, well, now, number 2, on the poodle one, it said, a noble animal incapable of deceit. Well, I don't like to quarrel with that, but I have a very deceitful small poodle. I mean, when he makes a mistake in the house, if you know what I mean, he always goes on the inside of the tablecloth and lifts his leg. That's sneaky, instead of doing it on the outside where you'd see it right away. I mean, so you can't say they're not incapable of deceit.
I think a lot depends upon the dog's master, how they behave.
Yeah.
The dog has a right to his opinion.
And who has to run the vacuum cleaner? Let's go down to Nipsey, please.
Number 2, at St. Bernard. Where does a St. Bernard get a liquor license?
I think it's a misrepresentation about them carrying the flask of liquor around. That's about the worst thing you can give to somebody who is half frozen.
I see. Number 1, what's the name of the breed of African dogs that's used to hunt lions? Do you know?
No, I don't.
How about you, number 3?
No, I
Same
don't.
question. Number 2?
No, I don't.
I see. What kind of a coat of arms would you design, number 1, for just an ordinary Sooner mutt, since there are no distinguishing characteristics in his lineage?
Well, I would call him the all-American dog.
And how, number 2, would you symbolize that in your design?
Oh, probably the region that the dog is located in at the time.
Thank you. Number 3, where?
Thanks, Nips. Kitty?
Number 3, where do people put these coats of arms that they buy from you?
They usually put them in their living rooms or their dens or studies.
Oh, they don't put them on anything belonging to the dog, like
Well,
his blanket or something.
Well, not necessarily, but they could.
Uh-huh. Number 2, how many breeds are recognized by the American Kennel Association?
Oh, there are over 100. It vacillates. Sometimes some are dropped out and some are taken in.
Thank you. Number 3, how much do you charge for one of these coats of arms?
Well, they run anywhere from $4.50 to $49.95, all depending upon the size.
And number 1, what are they, on parchment, or are they reproducible, or what? Or
They're
suitable for framing?
They're framed, and they're on laminations, and also on parchment.
Thank you. Number 1, what would you use? Oh, we have a lawyer.
Too bad, Kitty. The buzzer takes us to Bill Cullen.
Yeah, number 2, these coats of arms that you've designed for the breeds of dogs thus far, where are they available? I mean, how do I go about getting one, for instance?
Well, the ones that I've completed already, which is roughly 30. Fine stores carry them. I think Saks Fifth Avenue has it in their doggery shop. Some very fine pet shops would have them also.
Number 3, have you thought of going a step further and doing an individual coat of arms for a particular dog? I mean, if he's an AKC registered dog or something like that, following his family tree and giving him a coat of arms?
I suppose on an individual request I could do that, although it hasn't happened as yet.
In other words, you haven't been commissioned yet for...
No.
Thank you.
There goes the little bell, gentlemen. That means that the Inquisition is over. Time to mark ballots while we try to decide who it is. Is it number 1? Or is it number 2? Or do you prefer number 3? Well, I guess the ballots are marked, and Peggy, if you'll start, please.
Well, I thought they were all fine, but I don't think it's number 3. I thought it was between 1 and 2, and I think it's number 2 because he mentioned that only fine stores carry it for very fine dogs. And it was that stress on the word fine. My dogs don't need one. They're not so fine.
You got it, too, showing. Nipsey Russell coming up.
I voted number 2 also, just from the aggressiveness of his responses, his confidence in his knowledge about the subject.
All righty, and Miss Carlisle?
I didn't agree with number 2 because I've seen those St. Bernards with the brandy around. Maybe they know about that now, but they didn't when I was a girl and I saw them. I hope they weren't empty. I voted for number 1 because he's gentle and sweet looking and...
Maybe a designer.
All righty, so you got a little divergence here. Bill, what do you say?
Well, you see, because this is a good commercial idea, I looked for someone who looked like a businessman who would be... Now, number 1 looks like my accountant.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my accountant who counts on his paws, now that I get right. But in any event, because of the business acumen, I think maybe number 1 is going to be it.
All right, so that's the way it lies here. The votes are in. Will the real Lucian Gilbert, sir, please stand up? Mr. Gilbert, let's find out about your friends. Number 2, what is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Vincent Moreno. I'm an innkeeper at the Homestead Inn in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Great place. Number 3, tell us about you.
My name is Walter Pauls, and I work for a professional temporary employment agency here in New York.
Good enough. Mr. Gilbert, to forestall a lot of mail that I'm sure is going to come in, fine that you're doing this for the dogs. What about cats?
Yeah.
I am doing it for all the top registered cats and also for the horses.
Horses?
And I've been commissioned to do it for the Charolais cattle and the Angus cows.
Hey, when you get around to gerbils, give me a call. I would like to have one.
I will.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. You know, getting back to the theory of the St. Bernard, I was reading a book the other day called Survival at Sea. And the way I sail, I need to read it. I was surprised to learn that they found during World War II, people who had been in life rafts and so forth, worst thing you can possibly do when somebody has been immersed in the cold for a long time is to give them a shot of booze. Worst possible thing. They would take 10 people out of a boat, let's say, and maybe 4 would take a drink as a restorative, and those 4 would die. And the other 6 would survive. This, of course, is assuming now that you got people who are at the point of death. It lowers the temperature just that much more. So that puts a lot of St. Bernards out of work, and we'll see you next time.
This is Bill Wendell speaking for To Tell the Truth, a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.